Which dynasty best shaped the way Chinese people live today? There is one dynasty in Chinese history that lost almost every war it fought. It created the most prosperous economy and urban life in the world at the time. It invented the paper money, popularized stir-fry cooking, introduced the night markets and food delivery services, and even allowed commoners to become officials through exams. The dynasty is Song Dynasty, Song Chao. But strangely, it was also one of the most military vulnerable periods in Chinese history. They lost battle after battle, got pushed from the north all the way down to the south, and were eventually conquered by the Mongols. So, why did a dynasty that was so weak militarily become foundation of Chinese culture? Today we are going to look at one question. What did the Song Dynasty actually leave behind for the people of China today? It all starts with the founding emperor of Song Dynasty, Zhao Kuang-yin. He didn't inherit the throne, he took it through a military coup. His own soldiers threw a yellow robe over his shoulders and declared him emperor, overthrowing the previous dynasty. So once he was on the throne, his biggest fear was other generals doing the exact same thing. So he threw a banquet. He invited all his top military commanders, poured them drinks, and said, "How about you hand over your armies, go home, buy some land, and live a comfortable life? There will be no suspicion between us, and everyone will live in peace. Isn't that wonderful?" This is one of the most famous stories in Chinese history. It's called Cup of Wine, Release of Military Power, 杯酒释兵权. Literally, one glass of wine and the generals give up their armies. After that meal, the Song Dynasty's core policy was that ruled by scholars, not by warriors. The consequence is that the Song military never really found its routine. To the north, the Liao, Jin, and the western Xia took turns invading. Eventually, the Jin dynasty broke through the Song capital of Kaifeng, captured the entire imperial family, and the surviving royals fled north to Hangzhou, establishing what we now call the Southern Song. For 300 years, roughly half the Song dynasty's existence was spent dealing with northern threats, relocating capitals, and negotiating for peace. So, why did a dynasty with so little military power manage to last 300 years? The answer is money. The Song was the first country in the world to use paper currency. They called it 交子. Why paper? Because copper coins were incredibly heavy. Imagine carrying 50 pounds of metal just to buy groceries. So the Song said, let's just use paper instead. That was hundreds of years before paper money appeared in Europe. Food culture also went through a massive shift. Before the Song, Chinese cooking was mostly steaming and boiling, but during the Song, cast iron works became widely available and the stir-frying took off. You can see most of the stir-fry dishes in Chinese restaurants today, which can be traced back to the Song Dynasty. Song cities also had night markets and food delivery. There is a famous painting called Along the River during the Qingming Festival, 清明上河图, which shows restaurant waiters carrying food boxes through the streets and alleys, delivering meals to people's homes. At night, Kaifeng had 24-hour markets selling dumplings, roasted meat, and desserts. In many ways, urban life in the Song Dynasty was quite similar to that of modern cities. But you might ask, what does this have to do with ordinary people? The key is the civil service exam system, in Chinese, 科举. Before the Song, becoming the government official was largely about who your father was. But the Song opened the exams to everyone, whether you are a farmer's son or a merchant's kid. If you passed, you could become a minister. Knowledge replaced the bloodline as the path to success. That meant that it's still alive in China today. Culturally, things shifted too. Tang Dynasty poetry was all about grand visions. For example, the Yellow River's water surged down from heaven, magnificent and grand in scale. But the Song Dynasty's poetry was more like flowers fall helplessly, I watch them go. Personal, introspective about the small emotions of everyday life. Some painters also turned away from religious or imperial subjects and started painting ordinary people. The Qingming Shanghe Tu is the perfect example. It's filled with donkey drivers, boatmen, shoppers, and people arguing on the street. It's basically the Song Dynasty street photography vlog. From the Song onward, Chinese culture shifted its focus from the heavens down to the earth, from gods to people. The Song Dynasty wasn't chasing territorial expansion. What it chased was a dignified, stable, decent life for its people. But even that couldn't hold back the military storm that was coming. In 1279, the Mongol army swept south, and the southern Song fell. The final battle was Yashan Battle. The Song forces retreated the sea and were completely wiped out. The prime minister carried the 8-year-old emperor on his back and jumped into the ocean, choosing death over surrender. Over 100,000 soldiers and civilians followed them into the water. And just like that, the Song Dynasty was gone. A civilization with paper money, urban commerce, and a merit-based exam system conquered by a nomadic emperor. A lot of people blame the Songs for military weakness, but here is another way to look at it. The Song wasn't stupid. It was just too advanced for a world that still rewarded brute force. But here is the kicker. Even though the Mongols conquered the Song, they ended up adopting most of Song's systems. They kept Song's officials, kept Song's tax policies, and kept printing paper money. Even the name Jiaozi stayed the same. The conquerors came and went, but the system and lifestyles of the conquered remained. So let's go back to the question. Which dynasty shaped how Chinese people lived today? The Han Dynasty gave the Chinese people their identity. They still call themselves Han today. The Tang Dynasty gave the Chinese people their global label, Chinatowns, Tangsus. But the Song gave the Chinese people their everyday life, how they eat, how they spend, how they study, and how they try to live with dignity even under pressure. The Han was China's face. The Tang was China's name card. The Song was China's soul. And before we wrap up, here is a quick recap of the Chinese words we heard in this episode. Song Chao, Song Dynasty. Zhao Kuang-yin, the founding emperor of Song Dynasty. 杯酒释兵权, cup of wine, release of military power. 交子, world's first paper money. 清明上河图, the famous street life painting. 科举, the imperial exam system. So next time you eat some stir fry, use a banknote or think about how hard work can change your future. Remember, a little bit of Song Dynasty lives on in all of that. Okay, China Voice, China Stories. If this episode gave you a new perspective on the Song, welcome to subscribe to my channel and feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment below. And I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.